And then, thank you. And then we're going to move to a bit of a Q&A. So if you have questions about Esri resources or GIS resources, save them up or put them in the chat as we go along, and then we will be excited to talk about your questions then. So our first speaker today is Kansarina Kurnia, a senior solutions engineer at Esri. And her main role is to provide technical advice and assistance to higher education institutes. She has degrees in landscape architecture from IPB University in Indonesia, as well as from the University of New South Wales in Australia. And she's been working with GIS technology and Esri for over 20 years. Kansarina is joined by Mark Stewart. Mark Stewart is an account manager at Esri, and he loves maps. From a childhood encounter with an encyclopedia atlas, Mark developed and nurtured a passion for what Esri calls the science of where. This led him to an MS in environmental science and an almost 30-year career in the GIS industry, 25 of which he spent at Esri teaching and developing GIS courses. And we're certainly very delighted to be joined by them today. John Jablonski is also on the line. John is our GIS spatial, I don't know, John, what's your title? Your spatial data science librarian?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, and I help take care of the Esri site license for campus.
Awesome. So John is actually our expert boots on the ground about GIS resources on campus. So he's going to join us in the Q&A, and I know has had a long relationship with Mark and Kansarina, and they know when to pass it off to one another. So I think with that, we're going to turn it over to Kansarina and Mark, and we'll join you back again in the Q&A. So thanks, and just send your questions, you know, where to get ARC licenses, how to access different resources, just send them all to the Q&A and we'll curate them and use them in the discussion.
All right.
Want to share some screens there?
Yeah, I think I am.
Yes.
Right. So you can see my story map?
Yes.
Terrific. Hey, everyone. So yes, we are really thrilled to be with you here today. Kansarina and I are going to talk a little bit about just starting off with just, you know, what ArcGIS is and what is included in the license agreement that University of California, Santa Barbara has with Esri. And then we're going to talk some about like some specific sort of more detailed information about certain areas, study areas, thank you, like spatial data science and what kind of resources exist for, you know, specifically those tighter areas of technology integration. And then finally, we'll go over some resources that we think are very helpful to us and we hope will be very helpful to you. Some of, you know, what we covered today, I think a lot of you will know already, but hopefully there will be some information here that's new to everyone, and this can be something that, you know, you actually refer to back to later on. So we're going to use a story map as our presentation format today, and this story map is public and it can be shared with you, you know, following the presentation, so that you can refer back to it when you want to. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, I just want to say that, you know, UCSB has a long history of leveraging GIS tools in a lot of different ways. And, you know, Esri has a proud relationship with UCSB over the years. It's probably no surprise to you that a lot of the thought leaders in the GIS world come from USB, either as graduates or faculty. And it's probably not a surprise to you that a good many Esri employees come from UCSB as well. And so part of what has enabled that over the years is, you know, that strong relationship is the licensing program that has been set up. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, just what's included in the license program for UCSB. So we're going to begin with just saying that, you know what, UCSB for academic use gets practically unlimited access to ArcGIS. Now, when Rena and I started in GIS, when we would say the name of a product like ArcGIS, that was actually, pretty finite. You might be referring to one piece of software. But over time, as the GIS field has grown, the terminology that we use kind of has expanded too. So at Esri and in the GIS community, when we talk about ArcGIS, we're generally not talking about just one thing, because ArcGIS is a system. It's an interconnected system of lots of different components. And so we've got, the desktop component. We have, the cloud where our GIS web portals reside. We have applications, web-based applications like Business Analyst or ArcGIS Story Maps, like I'm actually showing right now. And so all of these things are connected together, and just about all of them are accessible to you as members of the UCSB community. So we're just going to go over a few of the parts of this interconnected system. And we're going to start with ArcGIS Pro. So ArcGIS Pro is our flagship desktop GIS software. So this is software you install on your computer, and you can use it connected to cloud-based resources or to online resources, or you can use it standalone. But it is a powerhouse of functionality. And so there are other, Esri desktop GIS applications out there, like, our legacy application, what we typically refer to as ArcMap, is still very widely used, but we are really encouraging people to either migrate or to start off using ArcGIS Pro, because it offers the best performance and sort of the long-term the longevity for use. So, when you get this story map, you can actually watch a short video about ArcGIS Pro or look at more specifics on our product page. But that's one of our softwares that you install on the desktop. Another one that is a little bit less commonly used is called ArcGIS City Engine. And it's less commonly used because it has a very focused sort of application. ArcGIS City Engine is really used for creating realistic 3D cityscapes or landscapes. And so I just stuck into the story map an application that's fairly new that I saw just the other day, that is the campus of Iowa State. And so something similar actually may exist. I noticed that Paul from the facilities side is here, so he may actually have the exact same kind of representation for UCSB. I just haven't seen it, but you notice that you can manipulate this 3D scene and rotate it around. And there's even other additional functionality, like if you're interested in modeling, the sunlight as it goes, throughout the day. There's types of analyses you can do with that, like solar potential, if you're going to provide, solar panels on the roofs of any of these buildings, that's helpful. Visibility studies and those types of things. Now, you might think that this is very, very niche, but actually, this particular software is starting to get used in lots of different applications. So if you're part of the community at UCSB that's interested in things like architecture, landscape architecture, urban planning, even archaeology, a lot of the faculty that I work with now, that is their primary interest in City Engine, is not constructing today's cityscapes, but previous or historical, I should say, landscapes. So something to check out. All right, well, those are a couple of our desktop applications, installed ones. But that's not the whole picture. when you get to ArcGIS. It is this connected system. And ArcGIS Pro, just as an example of our kind of flagship desktop application, it is connected to other applications through a web portal. And so you can see that here we've got two different versions of a web portal, ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. UCSB has access to both of these. ArcGIS Online is hosted by Esri. Very easy and accessible to use. ArcGIS Enterprise is something that you would set up yourself. It's a lot more, it's a lot more complicated. There's a lot more stuff that has to go into it because you're setting it up, you're hosting it. So there's all sorts of elements of, thinking about your own web servers and your own, hardware and network considerations, security and things like that. But you have the licensing to take advantage of both of these. But because most people, because of the accessibility and the ease of use, turn to ArcGIS Online, we're going to look at that just a little bit, and Rena's going to show you some of that as well. So ArcGIS Online is basically WebGIS. Once again, I think Rena and I have known each other a long time, and we've been, we've been colleagues for a long time, and we both have a long history in GIS. And so we actually talk about this all the time, how we are just stunned. Like sometimes we just can't believe how far GIS has come on the web. I know because we worked in training together that a long time ago, Rena used to teach WebGIS with a product that we made called ArcIMS, and it was hard. It was real, and she's really smart, which is why she taught it and I didn't, because you couldn't be just a GIS person. You had to know all sorts of other stuff too. It was really hard just to even get it to run. And so now it's not, it's easy. You just log in. And this is one of the great things about GIS at UCSB. The way it's set up is UCSB has its own ArcGIS Online organization for academic use, and they have followed best practices and set it up where you can log in. You don't have to be invited. You can log in directly with your UCSB Net ID credentials. So when you get the story map, you can click on the link there. It will take you to the UCSB ArcGIS Online page, and you can log in and you can get started creating web maps and creating apps and doing analysis and all sorts of great web GIS stuff. And so one of the things that is cool about ArcGIS Online is that not only is it itself a web GIS where you can create maps, load data, create data, do GIS stuff, but it is also a gateway to this whole constellation of other focused GIS applications like story maps, but also things like dashboards, ArcGIS Insights, ArcGIS for Power BI. You can see them all there in the graphic and the story map. There's lots of apps. Some you may never use, others you may use all the time, but they're there while you're part of the UCSB community to take advantage of and explore. So we call this part Cancerina's Corner. She's going to show you a couple of things about ArcGIS Online and applications, and then we'll talk more about the resources, how to access these things and resources for UCSB.
All right, thank you, Mark. I'm gonna go through like about 14 minutes, do some of the demo of the product here. So I'm gonna start with this kind of like a workflow. So I'm gonna just show you, I have the data, it's in like Excel. I try to find the data that really kind of like mimicking that some of you working with the scientific data. This is about a sample, a water quality sample in Saginaw Bay water quality. And then there is some of that, attribute. There is some the content of the chemical, chloride, ammonia, and things like this. This is related with the monitoring the impact of the zebra mussel in population in that bay. Okay? I'm gonna start first with the showing you. This is what it's look like for your UC Santa Barbara ArcGIS online. So if you notice in here, it has a very nice banner. And then if you scroll down here, you can actually see there is an email contact if you need. It says John will watching for the email if you need anything that need help. There is also the feature group content here. One day probably your project will be here as well. So as Mark said, when you're ready, you can just sign in. And when you sign in, there is UC Santa Barbara. That will, if you click that, okay, and that will redirect you into the sign in page of your net ID. Okay, so that's it. And then once you get authenticated, you can go in. I don't have access to that, so I'm gonna use my own here. So this is my ArcGIS Online. As you see, I have a lot of access to many apps here. So the one that I'm gonna demo today is the apps. You will do the same. You're gonna get a lot of this access to this. And if I go to my setting, I can actually take a look again what licenses I have. So I can go to the licenses. As you see, I have many licenses. You are getting a lot as well. And one thing in here, you also can download ArcGIS Pro from here. Remember, ArcGIS Pro is a desktop product that you can download and install in your own computer. Okay. So whenever I start working with ArcGIS Online, I start with the map. So I'm already added that sample data from Excel here. I kind of like make it look nice. Then when I'm ready, I save the map. This is what we call web map. Okay. So web map is very important. Then I can decide it, how do I want to share that web map? I can share it with everyone or my organization, or I can continue create web application. Okay, so the web application is all configurable. I can use the template, I can use web builder, and I can use ArcGIS dashboard. So the template, it can be like many different templates. So no coding, you just configure in here. So this is all the instant app. But what I want to show you here is the ArcGIS dashboard. Maybe some of you need to create a dashboard. You're monitoring something, so you want to keep looking or monitor the changes in here. So I give a title, I give the summary, and then create the web app in here. So give me directly to the location where I'm gonna design this dashboard. It's come with the map that I open directly. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add another item, which is the map legend. I can just configure the appearance. Maybe I want to give a nice title on this. And I also want, you can choose what's the title and all the look and feel of this map legend. When I'm done, it's appear in here and I can reposition it if I like to. And I'm gonna add another one. I think this is important for you. Let's add the chart, okay? And the chart again from this layer, as you see on the left, there's a lot of configuration. I'm gonna choose the category, the site, which is the sample site, and the statistic, I'm gonna do the average, and the field, maybe this one, I'm gonna choose ammonia, the content of the ammonia. So, and then maybe I want to split it by a field. So I'm gonna split it by date because the sample is taken by different dates. Okay? And you can keep on and on in here. You can actually configure more the look and feel and the value of this chart. Okay? So you can give the name or the title into this chart so people know what it's look like. And then when I'm happy with this, I click done. And again, it's edit. And as usual, I can then position it in the location that I want. And that's it. I have to save my dashboard. And then I can change the theme as well. If some of you probably like the dark one, it's look cool, maybe you can actually change the theme as well. So this is part of my ArcGIS Online. Another one that I want to show you that I think is important and probably you want to use it a lot is ArcGIS Insight. So ArcGIS Insight is the web product as well, web app that help you to explore your data, making sense of your data. So I'm gonna start with creating a new workbook here. So this is whenever I start with the project, I write the workbook. Then I can add the data from my ArcGIS Online, or I can upload the file. So I'm gonna upload that my Excel file that I already have it about this sample. So I bring it into here. You all probably familiar that you all have a lot of Excel data from your project. And all of this is showing on the left. So if I expand it, you can see that all the field and each of the field have different type and you can see from the icon. But one thing that I can do here, I can enable location. In my data, I have the XY coordinate in latitude, longitude. You can probably have address, you can use address as well, but I use latitude, longitude in here. Okay. So then when I run it, then there is a coordinates field now. And what I can do, I can drag this data and put it in the map. So now I'm gonna put it in the map here. Again, then it show me the location of that samples point. And I can play with the symbol of this. So I can probably, if I like to, I change the color. I can also change the symbol size, or I can have using a field to have the unique value. Okay, so in this case, I probably want to use the site number in here. And let's make it a little bit bigger size. Okay. Not that big, smaller one, yes. So then this is like each of the site has different symbol, and I can also have the legend, and I can pop up the legend. I can move it anywhere I like, and I can configure it even more. So if you like, I can just like include in my legend is also the count. So how many sample in each of the sample site. Okay. All right, so let's now create a chart. I'm gonna select two fields in here, the date, and in this case, let's do particulate organic carbon. And as you see, there is many different charts, and I'm gonna use the this block chart in here. So then it's gonna show the dates and also the particulate organic carbon. And whatever I choose on the chart is actually choose on the map and the legend as well. So there is a connection here between the map and other items in the project here. Let's do another one. I'm gonna select the site, and then another attribute is the date. And then another one, let's go with the chloride here. And the one that I'm gonna, because I have the date, I'm gonna choose the date clock chart in here. Okay. There's so many dates, so I'm gonna just filter it and choose the date from 1996. Okay. So all the sample taken from 1996. Okay.
Yeah, make that one bigger. I've never seen that one.
It is, isn't it? So this is the same like we have in ArcGIS Pro as well. So we have it in here as well. So now I can see like again the sample location and based on the date in that 1996. And content of the chloride. And again, there is an interaction between the chart and the map as well. Okay, so I really like. And then the one thing, you can actually see the analysis view. So you can see whatever you do, there is a diagram on this. And you can even go there and change again and configure it further if you like to. Okay. Last thing about this insight, you want to share it as well. There is a few things that you can do. You can share it as a page, as the model or the theme. Okay. You can actually enable the viewer to export this as an image or include the data and how you want to share it as well. So it is all connected again to the portal ArcGIS Online in this case. Okay. So then you get the URL, you can share it. You know, if you share it with public, somebody can just get the URL and open it in their browser. Okay, and then they see the project that you did inside. Last thing, Mark Stewart show you story map. So let me just show you how easy to create a story map. Again, it's part of the app that you can access from your ArcGIS Online. And you can just create a story. And it's very intuitive. It's almost like writing a book, writing a story. There's a template if you like to use a template, or can you start from the scratch here? So I'm gonna start from the scratch. As I mentioned to you, this is related to the sample of water quality. So I put the title about that. And because this is related also about the monitoring of the zebra mussels population in that bay. So I will include that in the text as well. Okay. So it would just like start with a very simple sample title and a subtitle in here. And I'm gonna just copy and paste the text about this project. The data is actually, I got it from NOAA. I downloaded it for this demo. So I'm gonna just copy and paste in here the informations. All right, so then what can I add in here? If I click plus, there's so many items that you can add. You can add an image, the video, you know, the slideshow. Mark Stewart do the slideshow, but I'm gonna add a map in here. Remember, I already created the map of the water sample. So I can just place it in here. I can configure it if I like to, or I just place it in here. Okay. And it is show the map. You can actually play with the size, or you can play with the setting again if you like to. Okay. And then because we create the dashboard, I just want to show you how to add the dashboard. In this case, we add it as the embed here. Remember, the dashboard have the URL. I just put the URL on that. And then it's showing in here. So again, if you like, you can make it bigger or smaller. And this is live. You can interact. Anything change in your data, it will change in here as well. Okay. The last thing that I want to add is the insight. Remember, we have the workbook that we create in Insight. I have the URL, and I just add it in here. Okay. And it's launched the insight within my story map. And I can actually, in this case, I make it bigger so they can see it. That's it. Okay. That's a sample of my story map. But let's take a look of another example of the story map here. This is the story map about, it's nicer than mine. Okay. But before I do that, I want to show you that I save it. And then remember, I have to publish it. I don't have to save, but it's saved automatically, actually. You don't have to worry about that. And then when I publish it, I decide how do I want to share it. Okay. So it will checking if any of the issue, and then if everything okay, it say like you publish it. And the last thing, this is just the example of the zebra mussel story map. I didn't create this one. This is created by University of Minnesota. this is complete with the story. They have the map, they have the risk assessment. So just like give you the idea, like the story map is a good way to communicate um, any of the project that you have. With that, I'm gonna stop sharing and then return it back to Mark Stewart.
Thank you, Rena. You know, those zebra mussels are a problem here in Texas too. They, not just Minnesota, they go a long way. All right. Well, so Rena was able to show you some of the tools that you have access to: ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Insights, ArcGIS Dashboards, and ArcGIS Story Maps. But none of those tools will get you very far if you don't have data to use in them. So we're going to talk about some of the resources that you have for data, and one of the primary ones is the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. And so the Living Atlas of the World is basically a curated subset of all of the content that's out there in ArcGIS Online. So in ArcGIS Online, you saw how you can publish things, and you will have the ability to do this if you're a member of the UCSB ArcGIS Online organization. But, you know, a lot of times when we publish things, we don't intend them, we may make them public, but we don't intend them to be really used as authoritative sources. I know that I probably, in my own ArcGIS Online account, have, you know, many layers named some test something, you know, and they don't have very good metadata along with them. Let me just put it bluntly. There's a ton of content available to you in ArcGIS Online, and some of it is junk, and some of it is my junk, I'm sorry. But the Living Atlas of the World is an attempt to solve that issue by creating a curated subset of that meets certain standards for metadata and is authoritative. And so that's always the first place that I go to look for stuff. You know, if I don't have data myself, I go to the Living Atlas because there's millions of authoritative maps, layers, and databases there. Now, that's one place that we can go for data. Let's talk about getting access at UCSB to not just data, but ArcGIS in general. Okay, and so I'm really glad that John's here, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but I think it would be helpful if he could actually talk a little bit about it. But what I was going to say, because I wasn't sure if John was going to be here, so I was just going to tell you, listen, if you're interested in accessing ArcGIS at UCSB, the first place to go is the Interdisciplinary Research Collaboratory, which is part of the library. The link is in the story map. The website is actually embedded there, and there's great resources there detailing how to take advantage of the Esri license agreement at UCSB. Now, if you're looking for kind of a shortcut, we've already provided you the link to the UCSB ArcGIS Online organization, which you can access with just your net ID. If you're looking to download ArcGIS Pro, once again, that can be done directly through the UCSB ArcGIS Online organization. City Engine's not available that way. You'll need to go to the collaboratory for that. But that's not a bad thing, because there's other awesome things to go to the collaboratory for. So it's a kind of a good sort of clearinghouse for if you're interested in GIS at UCSB. Now, we don't want to forget about the Center for Spatial Studies either. So there's a link to that in the story map, but that is also an organization within UCSB that is basically dedicated to spatial research. And so if you're not familiar, most of you probably are familiar with the Center for Spatial Studies at UCSB already, but if you're not, you're going to want to check out their website. All right. So John, did I get anything wrong, or I'm sure there's some things that you'd like to add. And for anyone who doesn't know you make sure to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I am in the library, John Jablonski, and I have to move once in a while, or else my lights turn off. So if you see me flailing around, it's because of that. There's one detail of when you log into ArcGIS Online for the first time, you can get Pro, but you wouldn't necessarily be authorized to use it. You still have to fill out a little Google form for us to authorize you for Pro. And unless y'all can tell me how to authorize our single sign-on people for Pro automatically. I think that was a feature.
We should talk about that. There
Yeah,
may be a way. So,
yeah, I thought it was a feature a while ago, and then it got turned off. And yeah, any of the other products, one thing that some things Mark didn't mention are all the server side stuff. We also have we also have essentially unlimited access to I guess that's ArcGIS Enterprise now is what they call the servers, the main server side product. And so if you're a Paul Barsh or you're a Hugo running a lab where you have access to server hardware or cloud servers, or a Trisselin who's running her own lab, you can get all that kind of enterprise level server side software. It can't help you using it very much, but we can also pass you on to Esri folks if you get stuck setting that up. Oh, and then the other thing, just for data, Esri also sends us every year, in addition to all the Living Atlas data, which I refer undergraduates to all the time. We were literally teaching a gerrymandering workshop last week for the Black Studies Fellows. Esri also gives us access to data for education set of data, or a collection of data sets, I should say. And that's a really nice selection of stuff that some of it's available in the Living Atlas, but even if it is, it's not necessarily available as like the raw computable data. It might be a web map service where you only get a picture, or it might be something where you can change the symbology, but you couldn't necessarily run your own analysis. Because of the way, like Mark said, there's a lot of it's not that there's a lot of junk in ArcGIS Online, but there's a lot of self-made stuff, and so your mileage may vary. If you want some of that raw data from that Esri for Education program, it's also a little bit more convenient to run it on your own workstation sometimes. Like if you want to do like the whole country's census blocks, you don't necessarily want to do that in online. Although I made a pretty slick map for all of Texas a couple of weeks ago with that data, and it's very performative. So yeah, I'll turn it back over to you all.
Yeah, that's awesome. You actually reminded me of a couple of things, John. One of the other great resources through Collaboratory is the GIS workshops. John mentioned they did one on gerrymandering, which is super cool, great topic, and very GIS oriented, but they have workshops all the time. And sometimes, Esri may be involved. Most of the times they're not. There's other subject matter experts coming in and sharing, their, specific knowledge and talents. So those are things that you want to keep up, keep abreast of, and that information is on the Collaboratory website. There was something else that you said when we were talking. It'll come back to me, John, but just another one of the cool services that are offered. John's actually, he's absolutely right about the data. Most of the stuff that your Esri license comes with content like that. And John, as the coordinator, the administrator for the license, is able to create downloads for that. So if you're working in a disconnected environment, you can't even access the Living Atlas, you still have access to this rich demographic data as well. And the last thing I was going to mention here is it's right here in the website, but they've made it easy to access Esri's online training materials. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but there's a great way to kind of segue into the different sort of training resources that are available.
Yeah, good. Basically, again, another unlimited thing. Anything that's asynchronous, you have unlimited access to as a UCSB person.
Trisselin, I noticed that you put your webcam on. Did you have something that you wanted to add at this point?
actually just have a question. So one is the collaboratory is in the library, John?
Yes.
The big one? Okay. And then also, so the two things that I'm hearing people ask for a lot are, how do we use story maps? So they want to start creating their own. So I'm so glad Cancerina showed us that. And the other thing is that with COVID-19, we've seen an explosion of Esri dashboards. So, every morning I wake up and check out the Santa Barbara County COVID dashboard, and people want to make their own dashboards. So for those two tools in particular, the story maps and the dashboards, what are the best resources to get students started on that?
I think that I can help with that, if you like. And Rena can actually, like, while I'm talking, she may actually even go to like sort of the specific learn paths as well, but if you don't mind, let me go ahead and actually talk a little bit about the learning resources.
Yes.
Yeah, and so before we get to that, though, this is sort of a relevant kind of transition. The learning agreement, the licensing agreement that UCSB has with Esri is unlimited for academic use. And academic use covers a very wide range of activities. Then there is limited but still substantial allowed administrative use. So we talked a little bit about how Paul is attending today, and Paul is on the operational side of the campus. Things like taking care of the buildings and that sort of, the utilities and very spatially oriented kinds of tasks where GIS is really important. And so that's part of the license agreement as well. But what is not permitted is commercial use. We don't typically run into this in a higher education settings, but it's possible. Sometimes there are faculty members or research centers that are actually engaged in active consulting. Nothing wrong with that, but we have to be careful about what the licensing is used for, because if the research institute is engaged like in consulting where they are being paid to create a deliverable, like a product or a data product or something like that for a specific client, and that is not for the public good or something like that, well, that's consulting and it's fantastic work, but they need to purchase different licensing for that. So in the slide, we kind of go over what is considered academic use. And if you're looking for more information, when you get the link to the story map, there's another document that's linked there called the rubric of permitted uses that gives great examples of what's considered academic versus administrative versus commercial use. And of course, it's part of my job to help with that, So Rena, I'm going to turn it over to you in just a second, but I'm going to skip ahead here just a little bit.
Yes. I'm gonna just better. That one is some technology updates. You can actually just read that, and we have a few links on that into the spatial data science and artificial intelligence, deep learning, just to highlight the latest technology. But I think for the sake of time, let's go to the self-learning, and I'm ready whenever you want me to give the demo.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Rena. Yeah. So, and if you have time, it sure would be nice to, I don't want to take up more than necessary, but it would be nice if you showed some of the specific things about spatial data science. I bet there's a couple of folks really interested in that. But in answer to Trislan's question, what are some of the resources specifically for things like dashboards or story maps? And so you have access to so much, and at no cost to you. So one of the primary ones is our Learn ArcGIS website. Rena will show you that in just a minute. That has all sorts of different kinds of learning resources, whether they're follow along tutorials or videos or articles and stuff like that. It aggregates them all there. They're usually very short and then sometimes put together into longer learning paths, like sort of a sequential thing to go through. And they have ones for story maps and dashboards. Now, for a little bit more formalized and sort of I don't know, hardcore kinds of training, we have the Esri Academy. The Esri Academy is also what we're referring to when you said you have unlimited, and when John said asynchronous, that's our web-based training. But it also, Esri Academy also includes instructor-led training too. So that's the part, you know, the asynchronous stuff on the Esri Academy is that's included. That doesn't cost you anything. But the instructor-led coursework will. But that's also, you know, if you've got a specific project, that's a lot of times the fastest way to get up to speed on a technology. There's other resources listed here in the story map. One of the ones that I want to make sure to point out is the Geo community. One of the great things about GIS is how willing people are to help and to solve problems. It's, you know, I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't think, like, nothing against them, you know, but I don't think like the Microsoft community has the passion, you know, for Excel, you know, that we have for GIS, you know, as a community. And so I could be wrong about that, but I think there's something unique about GIS people, that they are open and willing to help. And so this is a platform, Geo Community is a platform where you can ask your questions and get help from other GIS, specifically Esri users. So go ahead, Rena, would you mind here? Let me stop sharing and kind of take it away and show some of those learning resources.
Yes, okay, let me just real quick in here, just in a couple minutes in here, I'm gonna show you. This is Learn ArcGIS. This is really have a lot of well-created lessons. You can choose by experience. Maybe you're a new user, maybe you're already just professional, or you student or professor. So there's a bunch of you can start with this experience, or if you're familiar already, you can also go to all the content in here, and I'm gonna guide you how to select for the content. For example, if you interested in the dashboard, so you can go to the product in here, and there is a ArcGIS dashboard, and this is filtering all the lessons that really related to ArcGIS dashboard. And one of them, the one that you asked, create the COVID-19 dashboard. So it's about 1 hour 30 minutes. When I click that, it will open like this. It's gonna tell you what is the requirement. So it's required ArcGIS online organization, which is you have it. If it's not, if you don't have it, you can get the trial for 21 days to use it, and really tell you step by step how to create that wonderful dashboard of COVID-19 cases. Okay, so you can take a look of that in here, and you can even view the final results. So the final result look like this, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna actually build this dashboard using this, following this lesson. Similar thing is as well, if you like to learn about ArcGIS as a story map. So we have ArcGIS as a story map in here as well. And there is something that I like. There is a type here, the lesson, but you also can have the path. So the path is really like how to get to know, for example, ArcGIS story map. It's kind of like give you the path, not only one lesson, but a few lessons that combine together. Not combined together, but you can take one after the other. Okay. So again, you have all this link in your story map. You can also, based on the capability, if you like, or maybe you are the topic, you are with the public safety, or you are with the health and human services, select it for that. Okay. And then Mark Stewart mentioned about the training, Esri Academy, similar thing. You can filter it with the format, that you want, and also what product that you like, if you like to. But I want to mention as well, we have MOOC. This is like the massive online courses. This is for free. This is going to 4 weeks or 6 weeks. The one that's running at the moment is a spatial data science in here. So you can, I already join, so I can sign it. It's kind of like together from October to December doing the spatial data science. Check this one often because there's many others coming up soon as well. So you can register as many as you like. All right, with that, I think I'm gonna stop and return it back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Rena. And I'm going to share my screen, Rena. But if you like, I'd like you to talk a little bit about some of these focused areas of integration, like spatial data science and machine learning, and talk about some of the resources. Just take a couple of minutes to address those.
Yeah, and as we're getting close to the top of the hour, if people want to start putting questions into the
Right.
Q&A window,
Yeah.
we can save a few minutes for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, this is just want to highlight that spatial analysis and data science is big in for us, and ArcGIS support this. So we support when you do the data engineering, the visualization, the spatial analysis, and when you want to do the machine learning and AI as well. Okay, and big data analysis and modeling. So I put the link to the resources on that as well. So if you go to the next one, Mark. So actually, I want to tell that you have several choices when you want to do spatial data science in ArcGIS. If you're not programmer, you can use ready-to-use tools. We have a lot of statistic regressions, random forest tools in ArcGIS Pro to do the spatial data science. But if you are a programmer, you want to do Python, for example, you can do that. We have the notebook environment, both in ArcGIS Pro, in an ArcGIS Online. If you want the work with R, we also have R ArcGIS Bridge to work with that. And this is not only within Esri technology, you can also have integration with open source data science ecosystem. Some of you using TensorFlow and Scikit and all those things. So you can also connect with that. And I put resources there. Next one is just branching a little bit into the deep learning. So we do traditional machine learning tools in ArcGIS, but we also now support the deep learning. So if you go to the next one, Mark. In the deep learning, I give you a lot of the link in here. So we have the workflow that working with deep learning in ArcGIS. Again, you want to use the tools. We have the tools both in ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Online, or you want to go to the notebook, you can go to the notebook. We also provide ready to use models for the deep learning. So you don't have to train like for the object detection, maybe the damage area or land use. We have some of the model ready to use. So check these resources and you can always contact us if you need more information. Okay. The last thing is about the ArcGIS notebook. Again, we have the link in here if you want to learn how to use the ArcGIS notebook both in ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Pro. All right, I think we have 5 minutes. Let's return it back to Rosalyn and John if there is any question here.
So I had a question from your talk, Katerina. Are Insights workbook the same as dashboards, or are those a separate piece?
ArcGIS dashboard and ArcGIS Insight are different. Two different apps. Yes.
Got it. Got it.
They can, the visualization can sometimes seem very similar because Insights works with like elements called cards, and we have these, similar types of elements in a dashboard, a gauge here, a chart here, and so on. But the cool thing about Insights, dashboards is really that it's visualization and data exploration, but the analysis can actually be taking place in Insights, and the analysis is very robust. That's really sort of the differentiation.
Yeah, inside you also can actually map the relationship between, where is people migrate, for example, and then where is their origin. It's really more sophisticated data exploration.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'm not seeing any particular questions in the chat, which means you've answered everything, I guess. I personally have found this really helpful. I know that we have access to a lot of resources, but seeing them and just trying to navigate to them, I think is sometimes, the challenge. So I think one of the messages that we want to leave our UCSB community with is that, there are people here to support you in doing that navigation. John Jablonski's group is an excellent place to start, but the geography department is also, here to serve. And we're really lucky to have such a close connection to Esri. I also wanted to give a plug, John, for the GIS listserv. So if people want to get on that, how do they?
That's via the collaboratory webpage. I can get you I think it was on the Esri resources page that Mark showed earlier.
Okay.
I can probably navigate over to it.
Well, if you're interested, you can get in touch with John or I, and we can point you in that direction. And then we will also be sending out a recording of this, as well as, Mark, are we going to be able to send out a link to your beautiful story map here?
We certainly will. Yeah, I sent it to Lizzie already. Oh, okay. So, and there's the Christy just put in the.
Thank you, Christy. Yeah, shout out to Christy.
question.
She's the first point of contact for a lot of these questions when they come into the collaboratory.
Right.
So more often than not, she'll be taking care of you first before it gets passed down to me.
Great. Nice to meet you virtually, Christy. We look forward to meeting you in person.
And also at the end of the story map, we also have our email, Mark Stewart and myself. So you're welcome to contact us if you have any questions.
Great. Well, thanks to everyone. If there's no other final comments, I think we'll say a big thank you to our colleagues at Esri and John for being here. And I think we hope this is the first of many conversations about how to support GIS on campus.
All right. Thanks for organizing.
We're so
Yes,
thankful that
thank
you
you.
included us.
No, it's super helpful to get this overview. Like Chrislyn says, it's almost impossible to keep track of everything you're offering us.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.